One of the greatest barriers to consistency is the pursuit of perfection. We tell ourselves that if we can't do something perfectly, then it's not worth doing at all. But the truth is, perfection is a myth, and chasing it often leads to paralysis. You end up waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, or the perfect version of yourself before you start, when, in reality, progress is what truly matters. The problem with perfectionism is that it sets an impossible standard. It demands that everything be flawless before you even take a step. And because perfection is unattainable, you never actually get started. Or worse, you start but quit early because you make a mistake, hit a rough patch, or things don't go as planned. But life isn't about getting everything right. It's about moving forward, learning from the missteps, and adjusting along the way. Progress, on the other hand, is achievable. It's about getting a little better each day, improving incrementally, and focusing on growth rather than an idealized outcome. When you prioritize progress, you give yourself permission to be a beginner, to make mistakes, to stumble, and to get back up again. Because that's where real growth happens. The goal isn't to be perfect, it's to keep moving, to keep showing up, and to get better with each step. When you focus on progress, you take the pressure off. You allow yourself to be human. Instead of obsessing over whether every detail is exactly right, you start to appreciate the effort you're putting in. You begin to see that small victories count, that the cumulative effect of tiny improvements is what leads to big changes over time. It's not about doing everything perfectly today, it's about being better than you were yesterday. This shift in focus also helps build resilience. When you let go of perfection, setbacks and mistakes no longer feel like failures. They become part of the process. You learn to see challenges as opportunities for growth, rather than evidence that you're not good enough. Instead of being derailed by one bad day or one misstep, you remind yourself that every effort counts and that consistency over time is what leads to success. Focusing on progress allows you to be flexible. Perfectionism is rigid. It insists that things have to be a certain way, or they're not worth doing at all. Progress, however, is adaptable. It's about adjusting your approach as needed based on what's working and what isn't. It's about recognizing that there's more than one way to reach a goal, and sometimes the best path is the one you discover along the way. Progress also fuels momentum. When you focus on improvement rather than getting everything right, you start to see results sooner. And those small wins, whether it's finishing a task, mastering a skill, or simply showing up on a tough day, begin to build upon each other. Over time, these wins compound, and before you know it, you've made significant strides toward your goal without ever needing to be perfect. The beauty of focusing on progress is that it frees you from the fear of failure. Failure becomes part of the process, not the end of it. Every mistake is a lesson, every setback a stepping stone, and every day an opportunity to grow. When perfection is no longer the goal, you become more willing to take risks, to try new things, and to push yourself beyond your comfort zone. You're no longer held back by the fear of not being good enough because you understand that growth comes from the journey, not the destination. By prioritizing progress, you also cultivate a sense of patience. You stop expecting immediate results and start appreciating the gradual changes that come from consistent effort. You understand that big transformations don't happen overnight, they happen one small step at a time. And when you shift your focus to those small steps, you begin to see that even on the hardest days, you're still moving forward, you're still growing. Focusing on progress means celebrating the effort, not just the outcome. It means recognizing that success is a process, not a finish line. Each time you show up, each time you push through a challenge, each time you make a little bit of progress, you're winning. It's about the journey, the evolution, and the commitment to keep improving even when things aren't perfect. Accountability is one of the most critical elements of success. It's easy to set goals, to make plans, to dream about the life you want, but without accountability, those aspirations often remain just that, dreams. Holding yourself accountable means taking full ownership of your actions, your progress, and ultimately your results. No one is responsible for your success but you. When you hold yourself accountable, you remove the excuses. You stop blaming circumstances, other people, or bad luck. Instead, you take responsibility for what you can control: your choices, your effort, and your consistency. Accountability isn't just about acknowledging when things go wrong. It's also about recognizing when you've made progress, when you've kept your word, and when you've shown up, even when it wasn't easy. One of the most powerful things you can do is to set clear, measurable goals and then track your progress consistently. It's not enough to have vague intentions. You need to be specific. What exactly do you want to achieve? How are you going to get there? What steps will you take today, tomorrow, and next week? When you write these things down and commit to them, you create a roadmap that holds you accountable to yourself. Clarity in your goals gives you a clear metric to measure against, and that's the first step in self-accountability. But it doesn't stop there. Once you've set your goals, you have to check in with yourself regularly. Did you do what you said you would do? Did you take the steps you planned? Did you follow through? This self-reflection is critical because it forces you to be honest about where you're falling short and where you need to make adjustments. And here's the key: when you slip up, and you don't give up. You don't abandon the entire goal because of one setback. Instead, you acknowledge where you went wrong, learn from it, and recommit. Consistency and accountability is where transformation happens. It's not about being perfect, it's about staying aware of your progress and holding yourself to a standard, even when no one else is watching. There will be days when you don't feel like putting in the effort, when the temptation to cut corners or procrastinate is strong. But self-accountability is about staying true to your commitments, even on the tough days. It's about looking in the mirror and asking, am I doing everything I can to move toward my goals? A powerful way to reinforce self-accountability is to create systems that keep you on track. This could mean setting reminders, creating checklists, or using tools that help you stay organized and focused. Some people benefit from journaling their progress, noting what worked and what didn't. Others thrive by setting deadlines and holding themselves to strict timelines. Whatever system works for you, the goal is to make sure you're consistently tracking your progress and holding yourself to the standards you've set. It's also important to recognize that self-accountability doesn't mean you have to do it all alone. Sometimes sharing your goals with a trusted friend, mentor, or even a community can provide an extra layer of accountability. When someone else knows what you're working toward, it can create an external source of motivation to stay on track. They can check in with you, challenge you, and offer support when things get tough. But even with external support, the real accountability has to come from within. You can't rely on others to push you, because at the end of the day, it's your life, your goals, and your responsibility to see them through. Another essential aspect of accountability is learning to embrace feedback. Sometimes we think we're doing everything right, but an outside perspective can help us see areas for improvement that we may have missed. Be open to feedback, whether it comes from a mentor, a colleague, or even your own observations. Don't shy away from constructive criticism. It's a tool that can help you grow and adjust your approach as needed. Holding yourself accountable means being willing to face the hard truths and make changes when necessary. And finally, accountability isn't just about the big picture. It's about the small, everyday actions that add up over time. Every decision you make, every task you complete or avoid is a reflection of your commitment to your goals. Accountability happens in the daily choices, choosing to work on your craft instead of scrolling through social media, choosing to push yourself when it's uncomfortable, choosing to follow through on your promises to yourself. Each of those small decisions might not seem like much in the moment, but over time they compound, they build momentum. And that momentum is what leads to long-term success. Holding yourself accountable isn't always easy, but it's necessary if you want to turn your dreams into reality. It's about making sure that you are living in alignment with your goals day after day and refusing to let excuses stand in your way. Everything starts with your why. It's the foundation of all your actions, the reason behind your persistence, and the force that drives you when everything else feels too heavy. It's not enough to simply set a goal. Anyone can do that. But if you don't have a deep, compelling reason behind why you're pursuing that goal, you'll lose steam the moment life throws challenges your way. So many people set out to achieve something, but when obstacles arise, they quit. Why? Because their reason wasn't strong enough to withstand the inevitable hardships. Your why has to be stronger than the excuses. It has to be bigger than your fear, your doubts, or your fatigue. When your why is clear and powerful, it acts like a magnet, pulling you forward even when the path gets rough. It gives you the energy to keep going when the excitement is worn off, when progress seems slow, or when you feel like giving up. Think about it. If your reason for pursuing a goal is weak or superficial, it will crumble at the first sign of difficulty. But when your why is deeply rooted, you become unstoppable. Your why needs to connect to something you deeply care about, something that resonates with your core values. Maybe it's about creating a better life for your family. Maybe it's about proving to yourself that you can overcome any obstacle. Maybe it's about leaving a legacy, helping others, or fulfilling a lifelong dream. Whatever it is, your why has to light a fire inside you that nothing can extinguish. Without a powerful why, you'll drift. You'll be easily swayed by distractions, by doubt, by discomfort. But when your why is solid, those things lose their power over you. You'll be able to say, yes, this is hard, but I'm doing it because it matters. It matters to me, it matters to my life, and I won't stop until I reach it. Setting goals is important, but goals alone won't get you to where you want to be. Goals are the destination, but routines are the vehicle that will carry you there. Too often people set ambitious goals and then wait for motivation to strike, hoping that inspiration will carry them through. But here's the thing, motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes, and when it fades, what's left? Routines. Routines create structure. They take away the need to make decisions over and over again, which drains your mental energy. When you have solid routines in place, you don't have to ask yourself every day if you feel like doing something. It becomes automatic. You show up, you do the work, and that consistency compounds over time. Think about how we brush our teeth every day. We don't question it. We don't negotiate with ourselves about whether we feel like doing it or not. It's just a habit. That's how routines work in every area of your life. Whether it's in your fitness journey, career, or personal growth, routines create the rhythm that allows you to make steady progress without relying on motivation alone. When you break down your big goals into small, manageable steps and incorporate them into your daily routine, you're setting yourself up for success. It's not about taking massive leaps every day. It's about showing up consistently and making small, incremental improvements. Those little actions might not seem like much on their own, but over time they build momentum. What routines do is remove the decision-making process from your progress. Instead of asking, should I work on my project today, you already know that you're going to, because it's part of your routine. There's no mental debate, no wasting energy figuring out what you need to do. Routines allow you to focus on execution. and that's where results happen. When you rely solely on goals, it's easy to get overwhelmed. You start thinking about the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And that gap can feel daunting, but when you focus on your routines, you shift your mindset to the present moment. You're no longer worried about how far you have to go. Instead, you're focused on taking the next step, no matter how small. Over time, those steps add up and get you closer to your goal without the pressure of having to make big leaps every day. It's also important to remember that routines create a sense of control in your life. When you establish a routine, you take ownership of your time, your energy, and your focus. You're no longer reacting to the chaos around you. You're proactively shaping your day to align with what truly matters to you. We live in a world that celebrates the extraordinary. We see highlight reels of success, the flashy moments, the big wins, and the overnight breakthroughs. But what no one talks about enough is the part that really matters, the boring stuff. The daily grind, the repetitive tasks, the mundane actions that no one is applauding. Yet that's where success is truly forged. The truth is, the path to achieving anything worthwhile is often filled with long stretches of routine, of doing the same thing over and over. It's in the quiet, unglamorous moments where you show up to put in the work, even when no one's watching. You can't skip this part, because the boring stuff, that's where growth happens. It's in the repetition that you hone your craft, build your discipline, and lay the foundation for everything you want to achieve. Think of an athlete training for a major competition. You see them on the podium, gold medal in hand, but what you don't see are the thousands of hours spent doing the same drills, the same workouts, day in and day out. That training isn't always exciting, but it's essential. They're not always motivated or inspired, but they've learned to embrace the monotony because they understand that this is where the work gets done. In every field, mastery comes through repetition. You don't get good at something by doing it once or twice. You get good by doing it 100 times, 1,000 times, until it becomes second nature. But the tricky part is, most people quit when it gets boring. They give up when the process stops being exciting or when the results don't show up immediately. But that's exactly when you need to lean in. The boring parts are the foundation of consistency. They're the small, uncelebrated steps that lead to big outcomes. It's easy to get caught up in chasing the next exciting thing, the latest hack, trend, or shortcut, but the truth is, there are no shortcuts. Real success is built brick by brick, and those bricks are often laid in the quiet, tedious moments when you'd rather be doing something else. When you embrace the boring, you develop a kind of resilience. You learn to push through discomfort, to stay focused even when progress feels slow. The boring moments teach you patience, and patience is one of the most underrated qualities in the pursuit of greatness. It's in those moments that you cultivate the persistence needed to stay the course, even when the immediate rewards aren't visible. In fact, boredom can be a good sign. It means you've moved beyond the beginner phase. When things feel repetitive, it's because you've reached a level where mastery requires precision and refinement, not constant novelty. The real breakthroughs happen after you've put in the time, after you've repeated the process so many times that it becomes second nature. What many people don't realize is that it's in the boring stretches where momentum is built. It's like water boiling. It doesn't happen instantly. You have to keep applying heat, even when it seems like nothing is happening. Eventually the water will boil, but only because you didn't stop when it seemed like the process was taking too long. The mistake most people make is abandoning the process when it gets dull. They start strong, full of excitement and energy, but when the initial buzz wears off, they lose focus. They don't realize that embracing the boring is the price of entry for sustained success. If you want to reach your goals, you have to commit to the mundane, the repetitive, and the sometimes tedious parts of the journey.